The nature of drugs in the Wild West. The Wild West was not solely driven by determination and whiskey. Beyond the saloon doors and dusty trails, drugs permeated the lives of settlers, outlaws, and miners alike. Opium dens were alive with activity, their smoky interiors luring gamblers and fugitives into an intoxicating haze. Laudanum bottles marketed as miracle cures became both essential lifelines and fatal traps in mining towns and frontier cabins. Cocaine-fueled cattle drives traversed the plains, while cannabis thrived in unregulated fields, its use spreading among laborers and cowboys. The drug culture of the Wild West was not concealed. It flourished openly, influencing the chaotic rhythm of a lawless time. The introduction of opium to the Wild West gained momentum during the California Gold Rush when thousands of Chinese immigrants brought their labor and habits across the Pacific. By the 1850s, opium dens began to appear in mining towns. In San Francisco's Chinatown, narrow alleys led to dimly lit rooms filled with low tables, bamboo mats, and the heavy scent of burnt opium resin. These dens became social hubs, not only for Chinese laborers but also for gamblers, outlaws, and the curious, all in pursuit of the warm euphoria promised by the poppy. The atmosphere inside a den was anything but discreet. Smokers reclined languidly, holding long stem pipes. Nearby, attendants, often clad in silk robes, tended to small lamps to heat the opium, preparing dose after dose. The thick smoke swirled through the dimly lit spaces, blending with the murmur of conversations and the occasional burst of laughter. These dens were not hidden away in secrecy. They thrived openly in cities such as Denver and Portland, where areas like Hop Alley hosted numerous establishments. By the 1870s, opium smoking had transcended the confines of the Chinese community. News of its consequences spread through mining camps and railroad outposts, enticing settlers fatigued by the harsh realities of frontier life. Some arrived out of curiosity, while others, worn down by injury or emotional distress, sought solace. The law seldom intervened. Authorities either turned a blind eye to the dens or actively safeguarded them in return for substantial bribes. One of the most infamous centers was located in Virginia City, Nevada, where den proprietors catered to miners who had struck gold and gamblers attempting to recover their losses. Reports of all-night gatherings where patrons indulged in smoking until they were in a stupor circulated through newspapers, provoking a blend of intrigue and disapproval. The opium trade expanded with each train that arrived, bringing new laborers and fresh supplies. By the 1880s, American customs officials observed that opium imports had surged from a few thousand pounds to several 100,000 pounds. The dens flourished in the shadows of this thriving trade. For many, these establishments provided an escape from the brutalities of frontier life. For others, they became a snare, their lives engulfed by the fog of the pipe. Laudanum did not enter the Wild West quietly. It surged forth, promoted as the remedy for every ailment faced by pioneers. It was a common item in doctors' kits and general stores, a dark, bitter liquid composed of opium dissolved in alcohol. It alleviated the pain of childbirth, calmed crying infants, and numbed the relentless agony of gunshot wounds and fractured bones. However, it was far from benign. The death of Sally Talbot in Cheyenne, Wyoming, in 1873 served as a stark reminder of the perils of laudanum. At just 21 years old, she was discovered lifeless in a boarding house, her empty bottle lying next to her. Talbot was not the only one to meet such a fate. In Virginia City, Nevada, Laura Steele and Ida Vernon experienced similar outcomes. These women, exhausted by the harsh realities of life in the toughest towns of the West, found comfort in the clutches of laudanum, until it ultimately led to their demise. Laudanum's availability ensured it was a persistent element in society. Gamblers consumed it to calm their nerves prior to engaging in high-stakes games. Ranchers relied on it to alleviate the discomfort of long working hours, while weary mothers administered it to their children in search of tranquility. Eleanor Dumont, famously known as Madame Moustache, due to her remarkable looks and prowess at the card table, tragically fell victim to an overdose after losing a significant sum in Bodie, California. The allure of the drug was undeniable, ensnaring even the celebrities of the era. Mattie Blaylock, the common-law wife of Wyatt Earp, developed a dependence on laudanum during their relationship. Her addiction intensified following Earp's departure, ultimately leading to her demise in 1888 from a lethal combination of laudanum and alcohol. Notable writers such as Edgar Allan Poe, along with gamblers, recounted the drug's capacity to transport them away from their harsh realities, only to return them in a state of despair. The relentless nature of the frontier rendered laudanum a harsh overseer. It offered temporary relief at a significant price, fostering addiction among those who exchanged their pain for dependency. The severity of life in the West was often exacerbated by the very substance intended to provide comfort, leaving a legacy of overdoses and broken lives. Cocaine did not subtly infiltrate the Wild West. It burst onto the scene with fervor and excitement. By the time of the Depression, it was widely consumed, even in cases of indigestion. What initially emerged as a medical wonder evolved into one of the most popular stimulants of the frontier. The drug's rise to prominence began in 1863 when French chemist Angelo Mariani launched Vin Mariani, a wine infused with coca leaves that was praised for its revitalizing properties. Each serving provided a powerful boost of energy, leading to a surge in demand for the drink, which even garnered the endorsement of Pope Leo XIII. American entrepreneurs quickly followed Mariani's example. In 1886, John Stiff Pemberton from Atlanta introduced French wine coca, a mixture he marketed as a nerve tonic. Following the enactment of prohibition laws that prohibited alcohol sales, Pemberton reformulated the beverage into a syrup, marking the inception of Coca-Cola. Early formulations contained approximately 9 milligrams of cocaine per serving, sufficient to sustain the energy of laborers, cowboys, and entrepreneurs facing the challenges of frontier existence. Cocaine was available in every imaginable form. Lozenges, powders, cigarettes, and injectable solutions could be easily obtained from pharmacies and through catalog purchases. Farmers in remote areas kept cocaine syrups readily available to endure demanding harvests. Ranchers depended on the substance to alleviate fatigue during cattle drives that lasted for weeks under harsh conditions. The influence of the drug extended beyond just physical laborers. The urban elite of Denver consumed cocaine-infused tonics at high society events, while gamblers in burgeoning towns sought it to enhance their concentration. Physicians administered it generously as a local anesthetic, further increasing its popularity among settlers. However, the appeal of cocaine was not solely glamorous. Addiction spread insidiously, with some reports indicating that settlers experienced paranoia or violent episodes after extended use. By the 1890s, cocaine had become a vital component of Western life, its impact felt in saloons, work camps, and parlors alike. It was not merely a substance of pleasure, it served as a means of survival and a respite from the unyielding challenges of frontier life. Cannabis integrated itself into the culture of the Wild West with unexpected ease. Initially introduced as hemp for its strong fibers, it soon assumed a new function in frontier society. Mexican laborers escaping political unrest in the 19th century brought with them knowledge of cannabis as a recreational drug. By the mid-1800s, it thrived in the wild, spreading across fields and pastures with minimal cultivation. The vast landscapes of Texas, in particular, became an unregulated area for the growth and use of cannabis. Displaced Mexican laborers were among the first to utilize cannabis for its psychoactive properties, often sharing it with African American cowboys. These cannabis cowboys would convene after long hours spent herding cattle or engaging in irrigation projects, passing rose leaves beneath the expansive frontier sky. The calming effects of the drug offered respite from the relentless physical demands and unpredictability of life on the range. Cannabis was not limited to the trails. In western towns, it became increasingly popular as a substitute for tobacco. The plant was more affordable and frequently grew along roadsides, readily available for anyone willing to gather it. Farmers and ranchers utilized it to unwind after exhausting workdays, while miners consumed it to alleviate the fatigue associated with gold mining. In urban settings, cannabis acquired a more exotic allure. By the 1870s, hashish parlors began to emerge in cities such as New Orleans and San Francisco. Adorned with Middle Eastern designs, these venues catered to adventurous thrill seekers. A notable account from New York recounted a hashish den where patrons lounged on cushions inhaling from hookahs while experiencing surreal hallucinations. The use of cannabis proliferated rapidly in the lawless environment of the frontier, where regulation was nearly absent. Its reputation as a benign vice allowed it to coexist with more dangerous substances like opium and cocaine. By the time anti-narcotic legislation started to take effect decades later, cannabis had already established itself as an integral part of frontier culture, its influence persisting in the myths and narratives of the Wild West. The Wild West lacked the constraints of a pharmacist or the oversight of a regulator regarding drugs. Patent medicines reigned supreme in the market, their claims of miraculous cures boldly displayed on vibrant labels. These mixtures were readily available in every general store, marketed to travelers from wagons that served as mobile pharmacies. Snake oil salesmen, skilled in the art of theatrical persuasion, performed on improvised stages, asserting that their bottles could remedy ailments ranging from tuberculosis to rheumatism. In the hands of desperate settlers, these remedies became essential lifelines. However, the ingredients revealed a different narrative. Numerous elixirs contained powerful narcotics such as opium, cocaine, and cannabis, frequently combined with alcohol or chloroform. A rancher suffering from back pain might consume a mixture infused with opium to alleviate his discomfort, oblivious to the fact that he was edging toward addiction. Parents administered calming syrups laden with morphine to their restless children, quieting their cries but jeopardizing their health in the process. Traveling medicine shows transformed frontier towns into venues for entertainment. Crowds assembled to witness charismatic salesmen, their voices resonating as they praised the benefits of bottles filled with enigma. Testimonials were presented with theatrical flair. One man asserted he had been cured of paralysis after just one dose. A woman insisted her consumption had been reversed. Beneath the performances lay bottles filled with narcotics sold in astonishing quantities. In mining towns, patent medicines became the remedy for every ailment. Cough syrups were particularly popular among miners who spent long hours inhaling dust in cramped tunnels. As gamblers gathered at saloon tables for extended games, they shared cocaine tonics to enhance focus and endurance. Meanwhile, women plagued by nervous disorders turned to many products marketed under appealing names, like Dr. McMahon's opium elixir. The side effects were catastrophic. Settlers in search of relief frequently found themselves ensnared in dependence. Addiction infiltrated communities already weighed down by isolation and the struggle for survival. By the time the Pure Food and Drug Act was enacted in 1906, the repercussions were clear. The unregulated turmoil of the frontier's medicine cabinet had sparked an era of both relief and devastation, leaving behind tales of woe,